someone said, you know, if you're not a little bit embarrassed of the first iteration of your product that you start selling to the public, then you waited too long to launch.
Yeah.
You have to know from the outset, your brand is built on the consumer and you are serving the consumer. It is definitely not the other way around. And I think if you approach it the other way around, then you're going to fail very, very quickly. The best advice that I could give any other entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur is just to talk to other people who are in the same position.
So I have here with me two fantastic entrepreneurs. It's been a pleasure seeing them grow the last few months. They obviously have a great product, a lot of stories in the space that they worked in. And just for context, they are the proprietors of Modica. And in this space generally, especially in the e-commerce space, it's very hard to grow a product-based company. Extremely difficult. Thousands of them shut down every single day, but you guys have thrived and grown at a fantastic pace. So we'd love to know more about how you began your journey, what gave you the idea, and how things have been along the way.
Yeah, totally. So we started when JD and I met in business school. We were getting our MBAs here at the U of L, so entrepreneurship MBA degree, and then we were taking night classes at the same time of working full-time jobs, so super long days. And at the end of those long days, what we really wanted most was a great cocktail to unwind with. And so my background is in cocktails and mixology. I have about 15 years of experience, opened a few bars and restaurants. But even with all that experience, I didn't want to muddle or infuse anything at the end of the day. I just wanted a nice cocktail.
Yeah, and I have none of that experience. So I can barely squeeze a lime on a good day. So I was never going to make a cocktail from scratch. So we started looking at mixers that were available in grocery stores everywhere from conventional to specialty and natural. And you know, this was like 6 or 7 years ago, and everything we found was full of sugar, preservatives, artificial ingredients, just something that would give you a hangover the very next day, which is just not what we're looking for. And so that's when we decided, we're in this entrepreneurship program, let's just start our own cocktail mixer. So we started it when we were getting our MBA, and then we were able to launch it finally in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic when everyone was stuck at home anyway. So we launched with 3 flavors. We've got a cucumber aloe margarita, a turmeric ginger mule, and then a tart cherry old fashioned. But they're all natural, low sugar, made with superfoods, and then fortified with vitamins and electrolytes too. So you get that extra boost of well-being with every drink.
Nice, it's a fantastic story. And when you guys look back at your journey, is there something you would do differently than what you have already done?
1,000 things.
Yeah. So many things.
You learn so much.
I mean, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah,
I constantly fantasize that about if I just know what I knew now back then. But I mean, that's just part of it, right? That's part of the journey is figuring things out. You learn so many things, get so many skills just by trial and error and just by, doing it. So, yes, but, also I'm really glad for all the things I learned and all the experience I've gained.
Yeah, I think it's good to remember. I think if I knew everything that was going to be required before I got started, I never would have gotten started. There's too much. There's too much. So you kind of want to go in with this ignorance is bliss. Almost, you need to know the fundamentals of what you're doing, but maybe go in a little bit with rose-colored glasses to get started. Yeah. And there have been things that I thought would be really, really hard that were really, really hard. And then there have been things that I thought would be super easy, like naming your brand.
That have also been really, really hard.
That took a much longer time than we thought it would.
Really?
Yeah. And with that name, I mean, coming up with a name, you've got to find something that can be trademarked and then something that is unique but memorable. And so sometimes I feel really good about Modica.
Yeah, we joke though that I can't have any kids after this because the thought of naming something else is just absolutely horrendous.
Cannot do it.
No.
How did you come up with the name finally?
Yeah, it was, so the whole process, I mean, it probably took a year. We were doing lots of other things simultaneously, but Eric and I would meet at least once a week, right?
Yeah.
And we would say, okay, this is the day. We're coming up with the name. We're not leaving until we have the name. And there were so many lists. There were so many spreadsheets. There were literally napkins with names written on the back. And then finally we came up with Modica, which is derived from the word modicum, which is just a small amount of a great thing. And we settled on that. We love the idea that You can have something great every day, and with Modica, that would be a cocktail or a mocktail. And then with all of the other added benefits to Modica, you get a little bit of all that great stuff in every drink you make.
Nice. So, interesting. I think one thing that you guys have done really well, and I see a lot of early brands fail at, is branding. And not fail, they don't pay enough emphasis and they assume that things will just develop as you go along. I think one of the reasons that you guys have grown so much, at least in the Amazon, in the e-commerce space, is the wonderful branding that you've done and how much time and effort that has gone behind it. Was that done intentionally, or does this just happen along the way?
Yeah, I think we were very intentional about that. We, from the start, wanted to create a really strong brand, because at the end of the day, that's all you really have. You know, you have your brand, and then you have, especially if you're selling online, the visuals are really important. So we really wanted to take a lot of care and attention into that. We did have some lucky, encounters. My sister did all of our branding, all of our graphics, and she's an incredible graphic designer. She's finishing up her MFA at Yale right now, so we're really lucky to have her. Our photographer is also fantastic. She's local here to Louisville, but so we've had some amazing partners. But that was something that from the get-go, JD and I said, no, this is one of the foundations for us. We need to really knock this out of the park.
Nice. And is there anything you would do differently in that process if you look back?
For branding?
From branding.
I honestly don't know.
No.
I mean, we've done some like refreshes, and little updates.
Yeah, I don't remember who said this. I didn't come up with it, but it's someone said, if you're not a little bit embarrassed of the first iteration of your product that you start selling to the public, then you waited too long to launch.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of the first branding that we did for Modica and our original bottles, but I think we both felt, even when we were launching, there's another way to up-level this. There's something else we can do. So it was really exciting to relaunch with our new, brighter, bolder branding. I loved that. So I would tell other entrepreneurs, you do absolutely need to focus on branding, but don't spend too long. You've got to get out in the market and you have to get out there.
It can be a never ending. You can get caught in that procrastination loop of, it's not perfect. But in the beginning, it shouldn't be perfect, honestly.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
And in the space that you guys are in, F&B, it depends a lot on individual tastes. There cannot be one thing that everybody likes.
Yeah.
So how did you guys decide, or did you at all take into consideration what your customers need when you decided the product, branding, taste, flavor, packaging even? Or did it just happen to click?
Yeah.
No, great question. First of all, nothing has ever just happened.
No,
it's always, it feels like it's been very intentional.
Everything is a struggle, no matter what.
I think with food and beverage, you have to know from the outset, your brand is built on the consumer and you are serving the consumer. It is definitely not the other way around. And I think if you approach it the other way around, then you're going to fail very, very quickly. Right. So I think for us, it was absolutely critical that we talked to so many people. So we had focus groups, we did interviews, and these were with strangers, right? Of course, we talked to friends and family to get their feedback, but your friends and family are always going to tell you what you want to hear. So you've got to talk to strangers. You've got to get iterations of your product out there for people to try. And I think also accept that with food and beverage, it's so subjective. You're not ever going to be able to create something that pleases everyone. So you've got to find out what really matters most to your target demographic and address that problem. So really go for the niche instead of the entire audience.
I think you also have to tie it back to your brand and your core values. So for us, we chose superfoods as our differentiator. So that was an easy way to kind of communicate to consumers, this is better for you, this has additional health benefits. So leaning into that, we kind of molded the first 3 flavors around superfood ingredients and then paired those with cocktails that we knew were already really popular. So the margarita, the mule, the old fashioned. So we knew we wanted those 3 flavors, and then we said, okay, what are the superfood ingredients that are going to complement those flavors, but also provide the kind of health benefits that we want? So that's kind of our strategy, but really just leaning into your brand and how you're approaching it differently, I think helps.
And you guys obviously did very well early on in the traditional sales channels as well, stores, farmers market, everything in between. What made you decide to enter into Amazon or e-commerce specifically? And that too that early on, and what has your experience been, and was that the right decision at that time?
Yeah. So I think we focused, at least initially, and continue to do this since we're based in Louisville. We really want to be a household name in Louisville and even more broadly Kentucky, right? We want people to know that Modica, it's local, it's made by two people who are from and live in Louisville. That was really important. So we had a physical presence everywhere. But we also knew for the brand to scale and for it to achieve what we want it to achieve, we can't just stay in Kentucky forever. So at some point we need to begin expanding. And I think online is one way to begin testing, okay, are there certain demographics that are really drawn to your product, and even certain geographies? We started to see more orders coming in from certain metropolitan areas, bigger cities, which was a hunch we had that the product would be more popular in bigger cities, but we also saw it coming in from more rural areas too. So I think all of that helped guide us. And then I think there's a consumer expectation that anything can be found on Amazon. And so we felt it was important to be there. It has not always been easy and certainly not always cheap to be on Amazon. But I think it really comes down to expectations when you're talking about Amazon. Are you trying to become super profitable on Amazon? Because if you are, that's one perspective. And it also is really contingent on the kind of product that you have. One thing that we've really appreciated in getting out of Amazon is understanding consumer demand for the product, consumer feedback. That's been super helpful and helps guide the way that we expand in a more physical presence to other retail.
And since I'm privy to the data on Amazon, I know you guys have grown like 10x over the last 6 months, if not more. And you have kind of taken on competitors on Amazon who have been around for almost a decade at this point. Very popular brands, nationwide, probably global at this stage. And you guys have been able to take sales away from all these incumbents who have been there at a very short duration of time in a space that is very competitive. What do you think were the reasons that you guys were able to achieve that in such a short duration of time?
I would say definitely going back to our strong brand and our branding. All of our imagery looks really great and resonates really great on a computer. But also we're really hitting on a lot of trends, and that was kind of intentional. So we're hitting on, the clean label, clean eating trend, functional beverages with our vitamins and electrolytes, the mocktail trend, and the no and low alcohol movement trend. So I think all of those things are really kind of coming to a head at the same time, and the fact that we're capitalizing on that allows us to compete with some of these bigger brands that maybe don't have those value propositions. It's just kind of a new, fresh take on cocktails and mocktails.
And for the entrepreneurs in Louisville, we are in a unique situation. We are growing pretty fast. A lot of entrepreneurs are coming to the space. So what has your experience been like being here in terms of finding investors, customers, support from the community? What would your advice be for those entrepreneurs in Louisville?
That's a great question. So Louisville feels to me still like a relatively small city given everything that's available. So I think there's a pretty strong entrepreneurial network here, and not just for your typical entrepreneur. I think a lot of minority-owned businesses have found a lot of support here, which is really great. I think the best advice that I could give any other entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur is just to talk to other people who are in the same position. It's really easy to isolate yourself and feel all the pressure of trying to run a business and make that work. And if you don't have someone else to talk to that understands what you're going through, then I think you can burn out really, really quickly. I feel so lucky to have a co-founder. I know there are solo entrepreneurs, and
I have no idea how anyone does that.
I could never do that. Right, So you just have to have a really strong support network. So I think talking to other people helps you find out what resources are available in your community. We didn't know very much about Story before we came here to do a talk on a Friday, and then very quickly we're able to connect with several folks here. Now we have an office here. There's so many resources available. I think that's one reason we got connected with you. So I think talking to people and not trying to shoulder everything yourself is the best advice.
And honing in on the co-founder thing, I really wish on most of the days that I had a co-founder, somebody who can push back, who can give advice, who can control the boat when I'm not up to it. And you guys have obviously, I think that's another thing that I'm jealous of, that you guys, I think, at least from my perspective, click very well, complement each other. But from each of your perspective, how has that journey been? And for those entrepreneurs who have an idea, who are looking for co-founders and wondering if they're a good fit or not. So how has your experience been, and what would your advice be for those entrepreneurs?
That's a great question. I think it's really important to find a co-founder that really complements you really well. And for JD and I, it was the experience that was really complimentary. My experience was in
Yeah.
beverages and mixology, more product face, and then JD's was sales and marketing. So that meshed, but we're also really just fortunate that our personalities are also very complementary. I think, you know, I am maybe pushing the gas a little bit and JD's punching the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
But you need that kind of balance. You need,
Yeah.
you need people that will compliment you and, you know, challenge. You don't want somebody that's just going to say yes to all of your ideas or just be on the same page with you at all times, because that's just a recipe for disaster. You really need to balance each other out.
Got it. And so you've achieved so much, you've grown so much, you've got so much customer insights. What is next for you guys in terms of Modica? Where will it be when we talk next year this time?
Yeah. So right now we have 3 flavors.
Nice.
I won't give too many details, but this time next year there will be more than 3, and we're super excited about what's coming. And then I mentioned earlier, you know, we can't stay in Kentucky forever. Obviously, we'll always have a presence here, but we're starting to expand. So I think some folks in other states might start to hear more about us pretty soon.
Nice. If not already.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Very nice. How do you decide what flavors to launch next?
So a few different things. We look at, you know, obviously what we already have, and then what's kind of missing, so any gaps in there. And we look at other cocktails that are trendy right now, but also like flavor profiles. So what's, you know, what type of drinker drinks cocktails, and are we missing any, you know, flavors that might appeal to those? So a lot of different variables. But we're just finished some extensive testing on cocktails, which is a lot of hard work. But we just finalized these new flavors that are coming up, and they're incredible. So we're really, really excited about them.
Got it.
More TBD.
Yeah.
And as part of being entrepreneurs, what is the one thing that you do not like? You hate? Is there some task or something that you do that you do not?
Oh, I have 2 answers. So the first one, immediately taxes. I hate everything to do with taxes.
Taxes.
Any like reconciling makes me my spine. I just can't. I don't want to talk about it. It's too much.
Right.
And then the other thing that I think, you know, this is my first real entrepreneurial business. Eric has had other experience. I feel like he's already gone through this, but for me, part of it is just managing the pressure and stress that is sort of inherent to being an entrepreneur, but that you're also definitely putting on yourself in order to succeed. And it's not like a typical 9-to-5 where you can really easily log off at the end of the day and go home and live your life like normal. You still carry some of that with you. So I think for me, it's learning how to manage stress and pressure and to still remain productive and have a healthy work-life balance.
Yeah, I would agree with both those. Never want to hear the word taxes again in my life, but I'm going to every year. But also, yeah, I think just finding that balance between, we were just talking about this today, the fact that you need to have a fire under you, obviously, because you got to move forward, you got to get stuff done. But you kind of have to also balance that with a healthy life, and you can't. You want to take on stress, but you can't carry the weight of everything all the time. So you really need to have that balance of what is productive and what is good to, you know, stay motivated, but not what's going to hinder your mental health or be unproductive.
Yeah.
And inevitably, you guys will grow, and there'll be more people who would want to join your team. What kind of people are you looking for to be a part of your next phase of your growth journey? And if there is somebody who's watching, what would they need to do to reach out to you?
Yeah. I mean, hustlers, people who are proactive. We don't want anyone who feels like they're waiting for us to tell them what to do. I want you to come with ideas, your own strategies, be running things by us. People who can really take something on and own it.
And run with it and really be, you know, problem solvers and not need, you know, explanations. Because honestly, it is like drinking from a fire hose in the beginning of a startup. So there's just so many things, and definitely early employees for any startup have to be a Swiss Army knife. They have to be able to do a lot of different skills. But I think, most importantly is just that ability to really problem solve and be proactive and be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So again, you guys have grown so much. Obviously, next insight would be to grow faster, and I think that would lead to fundraising, which I'm not sure if you guys are pursuing that actively right now, but I'd love to know more.
Yeah, so we started an angel round last year that's pretty close to closing this year. So
We hit our goal, but we're oversubscribing by a little bit.
Yeah, that's nice. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So that will be finished up here pretty soon, and then we're probably going to do a larger round later this year, like a pre-seed type round. So
Nice. How much would you be raising or thinking of raising at that time?
probably 2 to 3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
In terms of the early investors, is there anyone you would like to shout out to, or anyone who has been really supportive of you guys apart from the money?
Oh,
gosh,
I mean,
a lot of
honestly, I'm too
Yeah.
nervous to let. There have been so many
Yeah.
people, and I will say, like the people There are so many people I'll never forget or be able to thank for what they've done. They're absolutely the people who have helped us professionally. There were so many people before we had a product that were so supportive, and we launched the first iteration of our website, and I think we opened it for pre-orders maybe like 3 or 4 weeks before we even had product in hand. And I remember seeing those pre-orders come in and just feeling just so struck that people had so much faith in us that they didn't even need to know the product existed yet. They believed in what we had told them, they believed in us, and so they were ready to already take that risk.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
So if you're interested in learning more or want to try Modica, you can always visit our website, drinkmodica.com. We're also on Amazon, Modica. You can find it pretty easily. And then on social, we're always at Drink Modica.
I would have asked you to buy from Amazon, but I know the expenses involved, so please buy from the website directly. And so thank you guys for joining. You guys are really busy, especially with all the momentum that you guys have. Thank you for taking the time, and very glad that you trusted us at Xena to come in and help you figure out the Amazon space early on, especially at that time. And I know you guys have grown so much with minimum amount of resources that were available to you, and I sincerely hope that next year when we sit down, you guys will be too busy to even come here.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.